Good morning, everyone. I hope and trust everyone had a good week. Once again, we had some things going on during the week, and the earth, especially America, seems to be in turmoil right now. Seems to be a lot of confusion and violence and people just totally unaware of who they are. But I see all of this as a message to us, uh, as to showing us who and what we are. And it was something that I was talking to Pastor about earlier. So uh, I guess maybe if Sheldon's better at recapping than I am, if he can think of what we talked about Sunday, we'll start there and see if there were any questions on what we discussed last Sunday. Okay.
I loosely remember as well. I know it was elaborating on what we talked about the past few weeks, and we were talking about our private lives as far as being in a job, and well, as we are in our working and things of that nature, and how we approach that. And well, first off, before we begin, are there any questions about anything that was spoken about previously, as well as anything else that is going on in anyone's private lives that they wanted to bring up? Okay, I know it. Um, but yeah, so we were basically talking about more so of who and what we were, how we approach life. We were talking about taking responsibility and basically creating our own reality. We were talking about the feedback loop in terms of what we actually experience in this physical world uh, is essentially a manifestation of what we have created. Were there any questions about that? Okay. I know go ahead, Ron.
Nothing. I was just thinking out loud. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. What were you thinking? I know I ended making a statement that it would behoove all of us to stop looking at matters and looking at the world in terms of a good and evil spectrum, and how we do
Yeah.
ourselves a disservice in doing so. And so, just I guess a few words on that, and what I mean by that, and to help better understand, just as when we're going in our daily lives, when we walk through our daily lives, and if we have a lot of anxiety, or if we look at our body as deteriorating or having a problem, etc., those thoughts tend to have an effect on our health. Um, is a lack of confidence and fear that essentially we project onto our bodies, when if we were actually to do nothing and just be neutral, the body would actually do better in terms of regulating, balancing itself on its own. So, for example, even sometimes when we get little small things like a cold or some type of sickness or fever, etc., typically that is looked at as being bad because of the comfort that one may feel. What is not often considered is that maybe the body going into different seasons and things like that is actually making those changes to adjust itself in rebalancing. We don't, typically think about it in that manner. And often, if we will just allow our body to move through these things or have confidence in it, et cetera, and not just concentrate on the discomfort, those things will easily pass in terms of allowing your body to do what it needs to do. Well, likewise, in the same way, when we walk and look out through the world, because in a sense, the same as your own personal physical body, you are part of, in a way, you're connected to the world. So in a sense, you're still in another body. And when we look at the world as being evil or seeing evil aspects of the world, what that does is it causes the same type of confusion. And it also starts when I was just talking about a second ago in terms of that feedback loop. We start producing experiences that actually support what it is that we think of the world. So if we only see in any in our everyday experience the evil and ignore the good and concentrate on the evil, that in itself is kind of like a feedback loop. What we repeat to consume more and to actually experience more. The idea of, I don't want to say ignoring good and evil, but to cease or stop as much looking at the world as good versus evil and seeing evil in the world allows, like I said, those things that were actually occurring in the body to occur in the world more naturally as well. There was one more, there was another thing I was about to say that I forgot. Are there any questions at this point? Because go ahead, Ron.
You just reminded me of what I was thinking prior to, and when you recapped and went into your explanation. You remember, you guys remember that there was a documentary on, we talked about it several times, about the juvenile elephants, that a portion of Africa was overcrowded, and they packed up some juvenile elephants and sent them to another region, to another country. And upon getting there, the elephants saw that they were bigger and stronger, and they just started wreaking havoc in the jungle. And they were guarding the water holes and not letting other animals come to the water holes, and they were even killing animals and wreaking havoc just throughout the jungle. And until it got to a point where they thought, well, maybe we just need to put them down and start over. And someone had the thought of, let's bring in some more mature bulls. Let's bring in some bull elephants and see what happens. So they brought in a couple mature bulls, and the behavior almost stopped overnight. They went back to being the gentle giants that they were should have been to start with. And there are many morals in that, but one of them that stuck out to me is that they did not see an example of what an elephant should be. They had no idea of how to be elephants. And bringing in the mature bulls showed them who they really were, and they calmed down and became one with their environment. So as we look at that, I just kind of put that together with what Sheldon is talking about and what's going on in the world today. And as I mentioned earlier, I think our sights and sounds are trying to get our attention, and the attention of who the scripture talks about, all of creation moaning and waiting for the human to understand who he is. And maybe that's what we are witnessing right now. I saw this video that someone sent me earlier in the week. And what the video said was, it was only like 2 minutes long, but what it said was to not only guard your thoughts, but to understand that when you think a thought, or the feelings that you attach to that thought is what attracts the energy that is going to be attracted to those feelings. So those things go together. The thoughts, the feelings, and the type of energy that it attracts. So when Sheldon talks about the evilness in the world and the stuff, what do we think about that? Those who are on this journey that we're on, and we're right in the middle of this thing, and maybe part of the earmark to see where we are is all the violence that we're seeing. The week of Memorial Day was one of the most violent weekends of the year. If you look at the country as a whole, just America, not the world. So what thoughts do we have, and what feelings do we have from those thoughts? Is it one of fear? Is it one of helplessness? And if so, what kind of energy are we also putting out there? So just kind of add on to what Sheldon was saying, and I hope that makes sense. And if not, please ask me questions.
Oh, Ron, so definitely appreciate that, and to add a few things onto that, the great explanation that you actually gave, starting off with. Well, I'm going to pick off on good and evil. I know I wanted to say, and then related to the consciousness and the bull elephants. So as we would talk about viewing good and evil in the world, everything that we view or can really be viewed as evil is simply a lack of consciousness and awareness at that particular time that entity essentially is at. Any type of destruction and things of those nature, or anything that we think of as being really vile, and just not understanding and seeing their connectedness, as well as being in a I would say not such a healthy state in itself. So every single way that we and everyone else interacts with the entire world is literally a reflection of what is inside of us. So essentially, we are responding to that which is that is within. That's how we operate and experience the world, not the other way around. Going back to those the original elephants that got placed in that environment, they were simply acting from a place, not understanding their role in that particular environment. The order, hierarchy, I don't want to say hierarchy, but in terms of order and their role being placed in the new environment. I don't recall you saying that the bull elephants actually did anything to the new elephants, but just be an example of basically providing self-awareness to the original elephants that were being destructive. So they had a better understanding of who they were, and then started to, for lack of better words, act better within that particular environment. Now, when you talk about, you mentioned the word thoughts. And one thing we did talk about last week was we talked about cultivating, in a sense, a world inside ourselves in terms of what we want to experience. So Nick mentioned as far as being in kind of like a chaotic or stormy environment in the office place, at your job, at work, that first you would have to actually calm the storm in a sense, and feel peace, support, and things of those nature free within inside yourself. And so you're actually experiencing that. You just not just a thought of it, but after you have a thought, you embrace that thing and those feelings that were thought. Well, the feelings of those thoughts, become present and immediate inside the individual, inside you, at that particular moment. That is the world in the sense that you are creating. those thoughts that you talked about in terms of that clip, we can always have thoughts, all types of thoughts. The creating part is when we accept those thoughts, and then, like you said, you energize them with emotional feelings. So at that particular time, when we feel very, very strongly about thoughts, that is the world that we are then creating. In a sense, we are energizing those thoughts. We're bringing those thoughts to life, because we're literally bringing them into our experience. You experience them first inwardly on the inside, and then you create that in the world from a physical manifestation, that which we have created within. I'm finished.
I like that. Any thoughts or questions, anyone? A lot of times, or most of the time, whether whoever's facilitating, we're looking for answers. There's a lot going on, and there's a growing part of me that feels responsible for what goes on. Not to say that you are the havoc that is out there, but that there is a solution available, and someone in the earth should see it, or has the ability to see it, and that is partly the motivation to me to log on every week. Not only to bring love and kindness, but to show people who we are by being those examples. So when Sheldon talks about that, because one of the things that popped in my head this week rather, was how do you guard your thoughts? How do you? Because sometimes I'm great and sometimes I'm not so great. And I invite things in that probably not, in my best interest, and well, not probably. And I even think about what, back to Cain and Abel, what God said to Cain. He said, if you do well, would your countenance not fall? So the doing well, to me, is the key. How do you keep that position, though? How do you stay there as far as being connected to your able, or staying in balance with your self side? How do you stay at that position? So that's just kind of the thoughts I had on some of the things that I thought about this week, and just connecting to what Sheldon just said. Any thoughts or questions on that?
Ron, this is Vermel. I think my question falls in line with what you're asking. Like, for instance, with all the news this past week, I feel like there's times when I'm angry, and then I'm reminded we're all responsible. But how am I creating chaos when I feel secure that the creator in us and the ultimate creator has this control? But other times when I'm just angry about the fact we don't seem to really value life. Like, am I creating chaos because I'm having those feelings, conflicting feelings?
So I'm
Go ahead, Sheldon. Yeah.
trying to. So it's not, and I wanted to say this after Ron finished speaking, and I don't want to say it's odd, but I don't want to say it's strange. I'm not quite sure of the word to get it to explain it. It's not for anyone to actually beat themselves up or get upset, or like, I failed at this particular thing, or I struggled. It's just more so to become more aware, and instead of I guess saying or looking at it from this perspective, like, oh, I messed up, dag, I did this. Look at it as like, okay, I realize that I'm doing this, every time you catch yourself, and just approach it from the standpoint of, okay, I have an opportunity to change my beliefs. And then you get to challenge yourself on this thing that I believe, that I think I'm seeing, is it true? And so every single time that you do that, you have an opportunity to start changing your experience. So the fact that you are conflicted, and how you just said, Ms. Vermeil, you're more aware of these things, and because you're more aware of these things, you have changed to some extent. You already are on the course, so to speak. You only need to just keep on going, and don't look at anything as being permanent. So really, no matter how quote unquote destructive we are in this world, no, we won't necessarily, and I'm saying as a collective, we won't make progress, so to speak. But at the same time, it's impossible for us to actually destroy ourselves. And so understanding that in itself will automatically change the perspective and the outlook, as if it's game over, so to speak. No, the game is not over. You're just gonna have to start all over again from the first board with your new life, like if you're playing a video game. That's more so what's gonna happen. Or you at the same, you're at the same stage, so to speak. But it's not that, when we look at it as things as being an ultimate end or doom, it's basically because we're looking at things from a lack of understanding, and we don't really understand the whole. The whole point of this, one of the points of this reality, is to learn and do exactly what it is that you're doing right now. So it's like you're making the progress that you're supposed to be making, as you become more and more aware, as that you're helping to create our shared experience. So yeah, the main thing I would say is continue to challenge yourself. And as you continue to challenge yourself, you will continue to change your beliefs and thoughts. Your awareness will increase. And as those things continue, your experience will continue to change as well. Not only that, but it's also good that you are also acknowledging that, because even in doing that, you are taking responsibility. You're saying, unless, even if you're not thinking about it this way, from a conscious standpoint, you're saying, hey, I am responsible for this, partly responsible for this is taking place, or what is the role that I played in this? Okay, was I right? How did I do this before? Like I said before, challenge that self. Whenever you feel any type of emotions or feel any strongly about something, if you don't like it, that is a gift and an opportunity in itself to understand and dig deep, but it has to go within and not necessarily without. Why do I feel this way about this particular thing? Do I really believe that? Is it true? Because a lot of times what actually happens is we are guided by old beliefs, in a sense, that we no longer have. And those beliefs stay in place until we actually confront those beliefs and replace them.
I like that. I think a couple of thoughts on that. One, Ms. Vermeil, my thoughts were a tad bit different. I had like, for example, one of the things I saw this week is where a young man killed his girlfriend. I mean, he was only 21. I think she was about that age, but she was pregnant, and they had a disagreement. He shot and killed her. And I got extremely angry about that. And I had a completely immature thought, whereas I wanted to bring harm to him. And I caught myself immediately, but but I still had the thought. So I look at that kind of thing, and the opportunity that Sheldon talks about. I think we talked about it last week when we looked at the relationship between Cain, Abel, and Seth, keeping that balance and knowing that there is going to be times that we slide to the right or the left, but there's never a chance that we don't have opportunity to regain our balance. And so I catch myself sometimes, and I'm better at it than I used to be, but I have to remind myself, this is another opportunity for you. You are seeing this for a reason. You are the human in the earth. You are the one who is trying to become aware of the Elohim that you are. So those things come to me, and you know. But when I talk about the destruction part, it was the feelings that I had when I first originally heard that. So, I agree with what everything Sheldon said, and just tell you not to beat yourself up. I think we're headed in the right direction. Well, I know we are.
And I'm going to insert one idea. No matter what it is that we're going through, just planning this in the background, we are here to understand, and for everyone to understand that they are here to explore and create and enjoy this physical reality while understanding how our thoughts and emotions and the world that we create within creates the world without. And if you are able to grasp upon that and more so walk into that idea, then you will beat yourselves up less when you feel like you failed, because it won't be failing. It'll be simply the same thing as doodling or painting with a paintbrush. The only thing is you have an unlimited amount of canvases. So you literally just painting and painting. Oh, I like that. I like this, and continue to do more of the things that you like and enjoy in a sense. But it's just sketching and more so being in the moment, and just understanding that. So in that particular sense, this idea of failure, though it may look like it in the immediate term or in a defined space, is not actually real, because like I said, it's as if, and I don't want to act like we're taking it for granted, but as we talk about this physical reality not being the only thing that we're confined to, and then we just die, there is no failure. It's just simply you make no progress, or you have to keep working, but there is no failure. I used to have this professor who was really funny at Midlands Tech, and I took East Asian history as well as African history and African American history, and he was very, very animated and fun. And the class was honestly very easy, but because the tests were extremely easy, but you learned a lot because he, like I said, was very animated and very knowledgeable, and he would animate everything that was going on and was reading to the point where it was extremely entertaining. And he didn't care so much about the test. It was very, very late in the evening after he had worked, and most people had worked a full shift. It was more so just getting into understanding the information and sharing the knowledge. So when it came always the day before the test, he would essentially review and go over the test and read all the questions, but he will read them in a different form, not directly as they were on the test. And he will always joke around and say it over and over again. And he has said in this manner right here, he's like, just come to class, just listen, and and people would be worried, especially when the first test was coming up. And he'd be like, there's no way you can mess this up. You hear me? He just said, there's no way you can mess this up. And so I'm often reminded of that. And that's the same thing I am saying, right now. And what we're talking about still goes back to the idea of good and evil, because to actually see the evil or just see evilness is to think that the world is messed up or the creator is messed up, and also not to have confidence in the creator. Um, yeah, I'm finished.
But see that too, Sheldon. I've listened to what you're saying. That too is a Cain and Abel experience. Just seeing the evil, it shows that we're not in balance, and understanding what that evilness is and what the purpose of it is. One identifies or brings clarity to the other. So there is a necessity for it. Just sometimes when we feel helpless, we get to feeling overwhelmed. But as you're saying, we're never out of place. We sometimes feel like it. We sometimes lose our place of awareness, but we're never out of place. And as long as you are desiring to be good, to be light, to be love, to be kindness, to be compassion, be forgiveness, you're never out of place. You have those moments of again, overwhelmingness, but part of that recovery is what we're doing now, or just getting on, listening to the video, or calling someone, or opening up the scriptures, and the part that I need to get better at is just being able to find my answers from within, going to that place more often than I do, instead of being reactive as much as I do. So, Ms. Vermeil, I hope those answers, those words have been comforting to you. Any thoughts on what we've said?
Ron, it really does. And yeah, it cleared up some misnotions I've had. So yes, on the backside of that, my question then becomes, are we shaping things? Am I trying to shape things when I say, boy, I wish we'd hurry up and all become aware?
Yeah, again, and I think we're all kind of guilty of that one as well. I find myself, there are things I want to see happen in my lifetime. I say we may have understanding as much or more as there ever been in the earth, as far as people studying and being at one with Elohim, being one with the Creator, and seeing what we see. And that leads me to sometimes in my head seeing what I think the answer should be. But there again, that to me is not quite shaping it. It's just wanting relief. I mean, you want people to understand and stop killing each other. You want there to not be hatred. You want, so those are not bad things. I don't quite see that as shaping it. Shaping it is saying I totally want to know what I want the outcome to be, what I want it to be. And there are times I catch myself in that category as well. But I again, these conversations and these study sessions that we have seem to help me. So, any other thoughts or questions on that, or whether or not that is shaping?
Well, that same exact thought, as in, really any thought, can be also taken to the next step, or teased a little bit further. So the idea of, I can't wait until we all are aware, to ask myself, what am I saying, or what is it that I'm actually feeling at this particular moment, and why. And so from that scenario, just having the awareness, or getting to the point, which is almost there, because all of this is steps. And so a lot of times we can, I guess, get stuck on the step, but not realize just how close we are to the next step. The next step being, okay, what am I necessarily saying? What am I creating? Am I doubting that all of this awareness will take place or sometime in the future, and becoming more empowered and say, oh, I can create that right now. I can experience my consciousness right now. I can challenge myself and say, okay, if I am playing a role in this world, and as you said, Ron, the guy killing his girlfriend, why did he do that? What is it that this guy is missing that would allow him to do that? And that thing is a lack of love and compassion in his life. And I don't mean that he wasn't surrounded by love and compassion. I mean love and compassion within himself. So his ability to experience love and compassion and being separated and to do something of that particular nature, and to even do that outwardly, partly is him destroying or having I'm gonna lost a word. Him being inclined to destroy himself, but actually also in a little bit wanting to destroy himself in a sense, even if he does not understand it or does not see his self-worth and does not see, life as being worthy. So in that particular case, you experience actually love for him. And in a sense, as you are providing that love where you see love and compassion is needed, you're giving that love and compassion in a sense, not in a sense, it's actually happens. It's just so many different levels to everything that is taking place. But you are giving love and compassion to your body. So now you are oozing out of love and feeling that love within. You are, in a sense, putting out love and compassion to the world, that energy, as you're thinking about him as well. And others are picking up on that as well, who actually need that love and compassion, because from love and compassion is what one of the things that opens up consciousness and awareness as we talk about it. The opposite of love and compassion, in the sense of the way is connected, is feeling like we have to be our own God and we have to take care of ourselves and that we have to survive and that we're in a world that does not always have or does not always have love and compassion. The world, the earth, etc., does not love us, and because the world doesn't love us and shows no compassion, we have to fight for everything in order to survive in it and not be destroyed ourselves. So that is the missing key to all of this, is love and compassion. Going back to Cain and Abel, Cain was experiencing a lack of love and compassion and feeling like he had to be his own God and had to take care of himself, and therefore everything in the world and outwardly was a threat. I'm finished.
Questions or comments, anyone? Um,
Oh, one last thing. This definitely takes effort. I don't want to call it work, but what we're actually doing, in a sense, is evolving our awareness. And in order to do that, of course, we have to, in a sense, push outwardly, number one. And then, sorry, Ron, if I could say this right quick, it just automatically came up. But the other thing we're doing when we show love and compassion is we're actually softening ourselves and we're making ourselves more vulnerable. And that takes practice, and that actually takes effort. In a sense, it takes effort in terms of learning of not having a wall of being harsh and not judging and being more accepting and being more at ease. That in itself takes effort. So a practice is something that we're doing and we do over and over again, like I said. So once again, just to emphasize, not beating ourselves up about this, but just being more aware and in a sense putting in effort and working on it to improve ourselves or become more aware. And as we realize that we're actually doing that, we understand in real time how we are affecting and creating a different world. Okay. Any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just talking and I'm on mute. But yeah, I just asked that question. Any thoughts or question? And it does this make sense to you? Anyone? Okay.
It resonates for me.
Okay, good, good. On my drive, there's something that hit me this week. That's the one good thing in the week. When I see things that are kind of arouse me, I guess is the way I put it. It makes me think. It takes me to a place to look for solutions or at least something to comfort me. And one of the thoughts I had this week, and I've had this conversation with Pastor this morning, and it would maybe if he doesn't get a chance to get on today, he can go into this a little bit tomorrow. But my thought was the difference between being in the upper room and being on the mountaintop. When Jesus went to speak with God or to get an answer or to refresh himself, however you want to look at it, he went to the mountaintop. And yes, he had to climb, but on a spiritual level, that means, something. It's not the same as being in the upper room. The upper room, I wonder, is that where we are? Maybe it's where I am. The difference is, and Pastor can explain this a lot clearer, the upper room in itself says there are other rooms in the house. There's a room that contains your bread. It contains where you get your substance. That is part of your thinking. It contains your history. As one of the explanations Sheldon gave this morning, things, in your past. So, and those things also contain those religious beliefs that you've held on for so long. So the upper room, if you remember, when you look at Acts, it starts off with them reflecting on who Jesus is. In other words, the upper room is a place of contemplation. They are reminded of who they are and why they're there. So reminded against what? That saying is there was something else that was in their mind that they had to overcome or see this level of awareness higher than that other thing that was there. Does that make sense? So when we look at the upper room, they're waiting, and I wonder sometimes, am I that waiting at that waiting place? And if so, what am I waiting on? When you think about the mountaintop, we talk a lot about indigenous people. And I'm just using that as an example. The indigenous people believe that you were one with nature. You were one with everything that exists, everything that had life. So when you talk about that mountaintop and that climb, you are in nature. You are becoming one not only with what the earth consciousness represents, but you're making it one with the heavens and the earth. You're bringing those into one, and there is no barrier between you and the Father. There is nothing. So I'm climbing to an elevated place. In other words, I'm elevating my thoughts. I'm at the place where the consciousness of earth and the consciousness of heaven meet, and I'm exceeding that. I'm exceeding that because I am the human. I'm exceeding that because I am the Elohim in the earth. So the difference is, one is a place of contemplation. One is a place of me looking at myself and looking at taking an assessment of the history and the experiences that I've had. And as we know, they gained, they were able to see that spiritual side of themselves and move on. So that's what I'm looking at, versus being at the mountaintop, because I see that we can be at either place. But I want us to understand, I hope that we understand, that we too have an opportunity to be on the mountaintop. Yes, we go through contemplations in every lessons that we've studied, and we will continue to do that. But as we recognize who we are, that level of awareness, let us not be fearful of staying in the house, in the upper room, is what I'm saying. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yes.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that? Because I think,
Ron?
yes, ma'am.
So the upper room symbolizes one type of connectivity with Creator. When I think of room, I think of, as you say, walls and boundaries. It makes me think of something physical. That there is thought going on within a certain boundary. But when I think of the mountaintop, and I think you alluded to this, when I think of the mountaintop, there is no boundary. There is nothing, as you said, that separates me from the Creator. And so it's almost like that mountaintop epitome. It's symbolic of that opportunity where I can be one with the Creator without the history of negativity, without things that bound my mind as a mere mortal kind of thing. It is a place where I can be that spiritual entity that I am without boundaries. It's what it symbolizes to me based on what you just said.
Thank you, Barbara. That sums it up beautifully. Those walls are set up boundaries. Those walls say that it obstructs my view. I have an opportunity here, but there is much more that I can be. Those walls make me feel safe, whereas on the mountaintops, I'm with the Creator. That is my safety. So the whole thing reminds me of something Sheldon said last week. Let us not concentrate on the war, but concentrate on the love and the peace that we see. And that is, I talk about my frustration. I have, it's almost like I see something that I don't know how to operate. Vermeil talks about wanting to see things and not shape it. I completely understand that. There is so much more. It's almost like a lesson. You see that there's more than what you can explain right now, but next week you may see another layer of it. So that's kind of how I feel about my prayers and my meditations. I'm deeper than at a different place than I was yesterday, but there's so much more. So Ron, come out of the upper room. You don't worry about being protected. You don't worry about your boundaries. You don't worry about your history. You are at that place where you can be one with the earth. You can be one with the consciousness of what Elohim has given you.
I have a question. So when I'm dealing with a lot and I just sit back and close my eyes, I hear what you guys are saying, the spiritual aspect of it, but I want to make sure I'm right. So when I'm dealing with a lot and I just close my eyes, I don't want to say, am I at the mountaintop and just experiencing or just being one with the Creator? What am I doing when I'm just sitting back, gathering my thoughts and just shutting everything out?
It's a lot. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I can help with that. I think what you're doing is trying to find that connection to the Creator, or that place of peace within yourself wherein you are able to hear that connection to the Creator, to your own spirit, in the midst of the sort of noise and stress of everyday life and being aware of what's going on in the world. So that is, in effect, like the act of moving from the lower room to the upper room, and climbing the mountaintop being a sort of further amplification of that same thing. So it's like when you meditate, which is what you're describing, and you don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor. You can do this at any point if you seek a quiet place within yourself. What you're describing is moving from the lower room to the upper room and attempting to reestablish awareness of the connection to spirit, which informs informs all of our behavior on how to approach all that sort of stress, noise, and chaos that we are aware of, that is present in the world. So the mountaintop, in terms of spiritual and metaphysical symbolism, is like a very advanced or deep form of exactly what you are doing, but it is an approach of that. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to add to what Nick has said, with the same, along the exact same lines, as a matter of fact. If you look at, if you allow yourself to see where you are now, and you see everything, like you see the trees, and you see, if you are inside, you see the walls around you, or if you see pictures, that's what you're focusing on. If you see your family, whatever, the eyes are what allow you to see so much physicality, in a sense. But as Nick said, what you're doing when you close your eyes is, what do you see? You do not see all of the distractions, as he said. You don't see everything that can take your mind away from your inner thoughts of where you want to be. And so if you close your eyes, if you are beginning to contact that inner universe that's within you, that's part of who you are. And so it's a lot easier as to begin to control your thoughts, if you will. In other words, if things flit through, you let them go. They flit through and you let them go. But with your eyes open, you constantly, continuously see what you're looking at. With your eyes closed, and you're in contact with the universe itself, you're able to focus and concentrate on you as part of what you see, not as separate from what you see, but you as integral, as an integral part of what you see internally. So I agree that we've always said that the universe, we contain the universe. And meditation, closing the eyes, is just one way of beginning that process, completing the oneness in thought, if you will.
Barb, well, what helps me one of the things too is I think where I work, we have one of the prettiest campuses where I work, because we have so many trees. And just the fact that I get to walk outside and just be around those trees, looking at the foliage, everything. I mean, it's a very well kept property, but just going out there, being around the trees helps me like get away from the building and what's inside the building. So is that not a form of meditation also?
It is, and I see the trees also as part of the upper room kind of experience. You know, it's a place where you can walk and see and you can think, but you still see the beauty of the trees. And once you go into yourself and you even close that off, it's a combination of not only, I think Nick said it, the earth consciousness, the beauty of that. But it's more than that. It's connection with cosmic consciousness. Because the beauty that we see with our eyes is limited by our knowledge of what beauty is. Once we go internally and we become one with not only we combine earth consciousness and cosmic consciousness, there is so much beauty beyond that we don't even know of yet, that we cannot even fathom. And so, that's part of meditation, being out in nature, because nature is part of the creation itself as well. So I agree with you, and that is a beautiful campus.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to add, Barbara, like being out in nature causes an instinctive sort of remembrance of the connectedness of all things, because everything that we see that is physical is a spiritual symbol, a spiritual metaphor, including our own physical bodies, as that spiritual principle is expressed in material reality. So the closer you get to nature, the closer you get to the original expression of the spiritual principles in this physical experience. When you remove yourself from nature, which we all do, it's more difficult to sort of instinctively connect to those foundational spiritual principles and be aware of the true nature of all things, as it were. So being out in nature and doing things like that is very much a form of spiritual therapy, and is something that can help catalyze the internal remembrance of your own connection. And part of our problem is because we're so removed from it, we don't see the same things about reality or about nature, because we've created this artificial bubble to live in. And so our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are very much artificially manipulated, and they're not sort of what would genuinely arise within us, where we more connected to a more original, organic sense of nature and reality.
Any thoughts, y'all, questions? If there's anything I can add, I was thinking personally about my meditation, and closing my eyes also reminds me and helps me to see my breath and be aware of my breathing. And that always, too, has a calming effect on me that I think allows me to see further or takes me to a different awareness. So, and that just goes in line with what everybody's already said. But any thoughts or questions on Evelyn, or did that answer your question? Or
It did, Ron. It did, because we heard a lot about the upper room, and a lot, we used to sing about the upper room, but not knowing what takes place. We only knew that Jesus and the boys was there. But as far as us going there spiritually, I've never heard that the way you guys are putting it now. So thank you. Yeah, I got a lot from that.
okay. Sheldon, were you doing any other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I don't have any other thoughts or questions. Thank you, Evelyn, for sharing what you shared. I was just over here smiling as you were saying that, and what you actually described is a lot what we're talking about in terms of, I agree with everything that everyone else has said, but adding on to that, you are making a decision to create something different. And as Barbara was talking about, I was thinking that you were actually turning your third eye in, or looking to your inner senses, or connecting to your inner senses, as we talk about going into the upper room. And yeah, not only was it beautiful thinking of you doing that, and actually kind of like being there with you as you were describing it, and seeing how you were saying, okay, I want to create something different. But also, as you were talking about going on the campus, which I haven't seen, but Miss Barbara agrees is extremely beautiful. That within yourself was starting to create beauty by observing and experiencing and embracing that beauty, and that in a sense being what it was that you were in that moment internally, in terms of your world, is then what you were manifesting, creating as well. And that's how creation actually works. So just sharing all of that was extremely beautiful. Also, when someone was speaking, I was thinking, when I keep on emphasizing not to get upset with ourselves, or with wherever we are, and thinking necessarily that we haven't made it. All of this is pretty much the part of what goes on in terms of growth, and that questioning or feeling a little bit uncomfortable or whatever is the same exact thing also that pushes us that is pushing us forward in a sense. So definitely the questions are great, that Ms. Vermeil, Evelyn, that you have. The question that you asked as well, Ron, because once you ask that question, or once you question that thing even internally, then of course there's an answer, and then there's a learning, and then there's an expansion of consciousness. I'm finished.
I think it's really interesting that we are at this point where we're being able to begin to verbalize some of the aspects of the feelings that we've had as it relates to, our spiritual expansion. That those things that are beyond quote unquote religion. And the thing I think was interesting is that this is what our ancestors were in connection with, much more so than we are. And people today think that they were the people who were savages, but the ancient Egyptians and blacks, Africans, years ago, and Egyptians were Africans. They had this concept of who the Creator was, and they knew they were a part of the Creator. So they were aware of that, and they respected nature and the environment, and they respected their ancestors. It's like they were automatically in tune to the things that have been covered up through bondage and through cruelty that we've experienced over 400 plus years, or more than that, thousands of years, because these people knew this thousands of years ago. And all of that was part of what's stolen when the books were stolen from Egypt by Napoleon and i.e. Aristotle, all those folks. But they knew this, and we meaning the dominant voices in control, we call them savages. And yet it's what we are striving for now, to be one with that connectedness with all, including the heavens, including the earth, including the thoughts of our ancestors. And it gives new meaning, a different meaning to me, of honoring our father and our mother. Those were our ancestors as well. And what we're honoring is their connection and their knowledge and their awareness of the Creator and of their place in not only the earth, but their place in the universe of consciousness. And I'll stop there because it feels like I'm getting off track when I start talking like that. So anyway, I just thought it was just interesting that the people that we call savages, who were called savages, had already those things that we are striving for, and some things that we feel that we now are aware of today.
Barbara, this is ST2. On the heels of that, I know we've kind of mentioned this before. It almost feels though like we were stripped of a lot of these powers, and religion kind of forced us to kind of subjugate or relinquish our power and place that energy in just faith, and by forcing us to kind of put our energy towards something in faith, we kind of relinquished our awareness and power of that. And it seems like it's so much more of that connection that we sort of misplaced in a poor understanding of what faith should be to us, and we kind of sacrificed a lot of that. Does that make sense? Do you see that, Sheldon?
Yes, I missed the last part. You said it's like the last few sentences.
Yeah, it just almost feels like, we going back to some of the assimilation things that came up, and we almost sacrificed a lot of our connections and awareness of what came before us and what was there inside of us, and that religious assimilation sort of forced us to relinquish a lot of those powers and place more of the emphasis and energy on just being faithful and waiting and not having any sort of impact in what goes on around us, which basically kind of took away some of our identity too, and some of the things that could have been passed down to us. Do you see that?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I definitely see that and agree 100%. In terms of even the starting to turn from looking in and to look without, and also valuing, other things, and so we kind of like changed our mind set, because all of that is pretty much connected. So not to get too far off track, but how our little small things, I guess, shape what we do and how we think and our beliefs. For example, we have a very individualistic mindset in this country. But that mindset is also, for example, automatically cultivated by our economic system, which then says that it is actually a requirement, for example, to be focused on self and to be individualistic in order to survive. So it's kind of like there are things that are rooted into our society that don't necessarily have to be said directly, but they become practice. And in terms of where we put our thoughts and what we think of the world and what we think living is and what surviving is, et cetera. So capitalism encourages one not to share. Capitalism encourages one not to be communal in a sense. So yes, as that type of assimilation into our like system and society automatically changes, I guess, the individual in a way if they buy into it. And not even, like I said, just happening automatically, subconsciously. That, and then the other part would be there was definitely a fear as well of the things that are inherent to us or those things that you mentioned. And so it's in a way because of fear of those things that of course can be viewed from the outside looking in as a gift or magical. It was an effort to, in a sense, for us not to value those things, and those things being demonized, and us falling in a trap of a lack of better words of actually believing that. And so then demonizing ourselves or demonizing our own gifts in a sense. I'm finished.
So with this discussion, what I'm hearing is, because we started off with talking about indigenous people, right? And those things that they were connected to, or how they were connected to the earth and the heavens. We're trying to get back there. So connect this to beginnings, back to beginnings, because that's what this sounds like. And, the lessons that we're talking about, how the value that we're seeing in this is getting back to beginnings. And maybe that's why that, to me anyway, has been such a hard thing to see, because that is something that can't be defined. It is something that can't be caged. It is something that can't be put in an upper room. So what do you think about that? Help me make that connection to what you're saying and what this journey is we're on right now.
Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Audrey. What I'm hearing, and I want to ask the question is of whether I'm hearing right, is going back to what Barb was talking about what our ancestors valued. And then, so we as African Americans, we were taken from we lost our homeland, we lost our name, we lost our culture, and then religion came along and basically stripped us of our connection with the Creator. So, am I hearing right? Is that what we're saying? But also, that the connection with homeland, with the name, with the culture, that essentially wasn't it. What we truly, truly lost was our connection to the Creator. And is that what we've been looking for all along? And is that a connection to going back to the beginning? I kind of think that's what I'm hearing.
I can address part of that. When I was talking about what our ancestors felt was important, awareness of knowing that they were part of the cosmic universe and that the Creator, they were connected to the Creator. And George talks about this as well, that, even back then they had the laws of Mayat. And those laws incorporated things like truth and justice and peace and wisdom and love. And that's when they also, in addition to those laws, that's why they could respect the earth. That's why they could respect each other. That's why George told the story about the children who were racing and one fell down, and all the other ones went back to get him, and they all crossed the finish line at the same time. The oneness of all for one, and not one and one for all. All for one and one for all. That we are all in this together, and if one falls, we all fall. And if one is lifted, we all are lifted, kind of thing. To me, that's part of what beginning is. Beginning is understanding that we are our brother's keeper, because our brother is me and I am he or her. And that as our brother's keeper, that means that's how I show and respect and understand the knowledge that I am one with the Creator that created my brother and that created me. I am his keeper, her keeper, and vice versa. But I am one with the Creator that created us both. So, in a sense, that's how I see it. Part of it being connected to the beginning. Thank you.
I think that was beautifully said by you and Audrey. As we look at that, we in other words, I think this thing that we seek, we're there, and I'm listening to how you describe that, Barbara. These opportunities that we talked about, these struggles that we go through week after week, and causes us to contemplate, gives us these opportunities to return to beginning, to see ourselves, to become one with the ancestors. Every time we give thought to the ancestors or the indigenous people, every time that comes up, it's an opportunity to return. It's an opportunity to recognize that what we're really describing is our oneness with the Creator. So while you were saying that, one of the things I wrote down is we've been here all along. The opportunities are showing us that the healing has already taken place. And I look at my weekly struggles and the things that I see and the thoughts that I have. And I am reminded of a story I told you a while back when I was a kid, when they had to scrape the dead skin off of the man so the healing could begin. And we are seeing that healing, and that is why we are being invited to be aware of the beginning and that oneness and what that means, and the thoughts of you can stay in the upper room and be reminded, if you will, because the Holy Spirit did come and get them. That is not a bad place to be, but you also have a place to be one with the Creator at the mountaintop. It is a climb. It is one that you have to endure, and we are doing that now as we strengthen each other. We go back and get each other, and we will climb together. But we are strengthening the land. We are bringing love and kindness and peace into the land with each struggle, because the deeper we go internally as we look at ourselves individually, and we make these revelations on the weekends as we do, we connect to each other and we see where we are. And we see that the healing of the land has already taken place. And well, it's taking place. It is not over. I didn't mean to say that way, but it is a beautiful thing. We are the indigenous people. We are the ancestors. We are one that all that is and will be, and the here and the now. And this day is what we desire to be. We desire it to be wellness to mankind. We desire it to be understanding. We desire it to be wholeness. We desire it to be love. So
I have I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, excited about where we are and the discussions that we have. We are not at a place of struggle at all, but a good place as beginning is being shown to us. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but my question is, so the reason why they didn't want to leave the upper room is because they were in a good place. And how does that line up with where we are today? Not wanting to leave that place of peace, of balance.
And please feel free, y'all, to help me with this. But when I went back and I didn't have time to really read this because this thought just kind of popped in my head. But one of the things is I looked at is they were made aware of history, looking back at Jesus. And so and that's why I call it a place of contemplation. It is a place where we are reminded of who we are and what this journey has been so far. So yeah, it is a place of comfort. And it is a place that we are can become familiar with and find our peace there. But and it is not a bad place, but it is not a place that is meant to for us to stay there and reside. It is a place to move, and it is the place that the Holy Spirit came upon them. And that was the part that brought about their actions. That kind of not energized, but what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of activated them, or what do you call animated? Put them in motion into that regard. So to seeing who they were. So there's a lot in there, and I'm just kind of touching on the surface. So if there's anything else that you see, but all I was getting at is the upper room is not a place that we sit and become comfortable. It is a place that we move and find gather ourselves, see who we are, and see the connectiveness. And we talk about the ancestors and the indigenous people. It is a reminder that you are every man and every man is you. And that means that responsibility is not something to be feared or run from. It is an opportunity to be one with the Creator, and that is the strength. It is not something that you look at and embark on as I have done and thought, oh my God, this seems to be overwhelming. No, I am with you. I am with those who have come before us. I am with those who desire to see truth that will come after us. And more than that, we are one with the Creator. So this journey that we go on internally and externally, as we see things, we internalize it. But my internalizing it now, thanks to conversations like this, is being stronger, being strengthened. That I not beat myself up or be in a bad place, but learn to breathe and meditate. Yeah.
You're giving me
Go ahead.
something to think about for the rest of the day as far as being in that place. And I'm glad you brought up the upper room. It seems more personal now than it did before, because it was always something that we talked about external. We were taught that it was external. But now that you're talking about it, it's registering with me, and it's something I'm going to think about throughout the rest of the day. And thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any other thoughts or comments? I love our discussions like this.
I was thinking about when Ms. Barber just now mentioned, George talking about the laws of Mayat and those indigenous teachings, and think the huge, I don't want to say difference, but the thing that was very important in that is that those laws were not just rules in terms of don't do this and do this, but they were empowering, and how they were empowering were they enabled those, and I'm thinking about even like little kids learning this as they're growing up. It cultivated a relationship that a child or those people who are under the studying those things and learning those things to cultivate a relationship with their self, and to actually also understand and walk in and understand the sacredness that they were, but also in realizing and understanding the sacredness of the world and the other people as well. So it wasn't just a matter of don't harm. It was more so going, even that was just the beginning place. It was this is part of you. You are sacred. It is sacred. You honor this. You respect that in the same way. I think about how supposedly punishment works sometimes, and there's a difference between punishment and rehabilitation, whereas in punishment is just to try to force someone to do something by giving them something that they dread or don't like, and then they would want to avoid going, they will want to avoid experiencing in the future by trying to influence their behavior. Where this is something totally different, where it is uplifting and building as it relates to rules. So those types of things and those rules and those teachings from once before that were held in much higher light, those are the things that it actually did. These types of conversations, or as we walk and we try to become more aware and experience our inner senses, or with our, I guess, lack of better words, our inner selves, and more in who and what we are. Those rules and those teachings did the same exact thing. And well, essentially they were able to walk around sing sacredness upon them. In the midst of sacredness, as they were sacredness themselves, and having that, walking around with that conscious, walking around with that belief. I'm finished.
I'm at the same place, listening to you, Sheldon, and what Barbara said, talking about George, at that place of beauty. Just picturing what you're talking about there, and seeing that in a spiritual way, and looking at it as, again, an opportunity. That is our comfort. That is our history, and that is our rest. And so we're at a good place, y'all. I'm excited about where we are, and as we bring all these thoughts together, and something else hit me, listening to what Sheldon was saying, in contrast to what he's saying, when we think about the spiritual side of one of the downsides, anyway, of looking at the upper room, as Pastor reminded me, it is also the place that holds your history of religion. So all those things are battling you. But it is also the things that you value the most. And what I mean by that is I listened to what Barbara said, and we look at that. All those other rooms have to do with bringing comfort to the body. So what are we comfortable with? We're comfortable when we're not hurting, when the body is feeling good, when the body is full, when the body is at rest. So that's what we're dealing with. It forces you to take a look at yourself and the mental and the spiritual and the physical part of you, and bring those under submission, those the equally yoked thing again, and those egos that we talked about, bringing those things into submission and being driven by your soul. That's what brought the Holy Spirit to them, bringing those things into submission. So that's just a thought. I appreciate the lesson today. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay. I think that's all I have. Anybody else have another direction or something else? If not, I guess we're done, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Have a thought or a question that comes to mind, jot it down, and we'll try to start there tomorrow. Okay?
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Ron, for discussion.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Great
Ron.
discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, y'all.